G'day guys, welcome to another episode of My Blue Heaven. Today we are looking at our round 16 clash against the Hawthorn Football Club at the MCG, the home of football, another Sunday game at 1:10 past 1. And I must say, I am in very much a nostalgic state of mind at the moment. Given where our club is at the moment, and we come off a really good win against the Gold Coast Suns, a strong win. I go back to our loss against Essendon, and when both clubs paraded the 16 Premiership Cups out on the ground, and there was a lot of uproar from particularly our fans in regards to the club living in the past and hanging on to the past, and what does that do for us moving forward. And most of that was coming from the younger generation, and I can completely understand that train of thought. I really can. But over the last couple of weeks, and over the weekend where we didn't have any football, it was the bye. There's no doubt that I've been trying to reconnect with this club of ours. I've just been trying to find something within myself to, really love the club again. And for me, it's been about not so much hanging on to the past, but just, reconnecting is probably the word of what makes this club so great for me. And, I've been visiting some old suburban grounds, and there'll be another one of those guys coming up shortly. I'm very excited to share with you that ground which I visited yesterday. I won't say which ground it was, on the back of my video with Glen Ferry Oval, and thank you for all the positive feedback on that. But us older folk, and as you can see, I'm wearing a retro beanie. My mum knitted. I reckon she would have knitted this in the early 1970s, and she would have worn this to the 1972 and 1973 grand finals against Richmond. 72 we won, and 73 the Tigers got us. There's no doubt she would have worn it in 79 and 81 and 82. Don't think she wore it to 87. It was probably too warm to wear this beanie. But she probably wore it again in 1995. And, I love it. I love this beanie. I really do. And she handed it over to me. So I might wear this for the rest of the year. It's a beauty, an absolute beauty. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about our club because I have reconnected with the past, and our club is great. It really is. And we really need to acknowledge why it is great. And that is on the back of success in the past. It's on the back of what made football great. And I feel so privileged to grow up in an era where it was pure tribalism going to the football. Standing in the outer on the terraces at all those grounds, which I will visit, and just falling in love with this club. And I'm not going to let go of that. And it's actually helping me love this club again, going for a really difficult patch. But I'm not here to keep talking about that. I'm feeling really positive about this weekend. I really am. And it's not necessarily because we did a number on the Gold Coast Suns, and we're going to have to try and, pardon the pun, buck the trend of the curse of the bye. But I feel like we will do a number on Hawthorn, who has been our nemesis for a long period of time, although we did get them last year at the MCG in that game where we led convincingly up until the third quarter, and they came home like a steam train. They really did. But it's a different looking Hawthorn to last year, and they've shown some decent signs once again under Sam Mitchell this year. They've been up and down like a lot of young sides are. They played exceptionally well against the Brisbane Lions about 2.5 weeks back at the MCG, where their handball game and their transition game was just too much for the Brisbane Lions at the G. Before that, they'd beaten St Kilda and had a huge win, over 100 points against the West Coast Eagles. Does that make this a difficult proposition for us on Sunday, considering that one of the areas that's been a big concern for us is consistency of method, consistency of effort and attitude. Although, if we are led to believe that this club is unified, you wouldn't think that attitude is particularly a problem, but there's no doubt that method and system and playing the game on our own terms has been somewhat of a challenge right throughout 2023 and also at the back end of 2022. But I am so confident that we will do a number on Hawthorn. Now, when I say a number, I feel like a margin between 20 to 30 points in this day and age is a number, just like the losing margins that we had against better opposition to us through that really bad period where we lost, 6 or 7 on end. I think this is a real opportunity for us to start building some consistency on the back of that Gold Coast win a fortnight ago. 15th us, 16th Hawthorn, and their performance, the Hawks against the Gold Coast Suns on the weekend, was poor. Although they did kick the first 3 goals of the game, and they looked to be really refreshed after coming off the bye, but they certainly did fall away. Although at the start of the third quarter, they did get within a goal. And it wasn't until the last, say, 5 to 10 minutes of that game that the Gold Coast Suns piled on, I think, 5 unanswered goals to push that margin out. So as much as it was a bad performance by Hawthorn Road, and it just shows you how inconsistent a team like the Gold Coast Suns can be, they are a difficult proposition on their home turf. But Hawthorn come back to the MCG where they've been okay in games, very competitive this year. However, I just look at their team, guys, and it just doesn't put any fear into me as a supporter. It really doesn't. And the big one is having their skipper out of the team, James Sicily, and he is such an important player for them. His intercept game, his leadership, his ball use, his smarts. He is an A-grade talent. So not having him in that team, they look, particularly on the back of last week, they look somewhat rudderless. And do they have the power through the midfield to match it with us, particularly if we can win the game at the source? The only area that I think could really challenge us and ask questions of us if they're able to somehow get those transition sort of movements going, which they can do. And what they're really good at, Hawthorn, is the forward handball, and they did that really well against Brisbane. And you look at their stats. I mean, they win the ball. They're not bad at clearances. They've got not so much quality ruckman, but Reeves and also Meek are capable. So first hands will be important for them. But I felt like after quarter time against the Gold Coast Suns, we were getting back to what makes us a difficult proposition for opposition teams, and that is the contest and our clearance work. Now, not having Pitnet there, 4-year Mark Pitnet, is that a concern? What would that look like with TDK playing the majority of the time in the ruck? Will Lewis Young come in to be the backup ruckman? I've noticed he is been named as one of the yins. I'll go through those in a minute. On the extended bench, Jack Silvani comes into the team. You would think that Jack will play that role, that pinch hit role. We know that that's not sustainable moving forward. But for this game, it's just going to have to do. Let's look at our team first. And on paper, it looks okay. It really does. I know we lose Matthew Cottrell. He wasn't in great form, although he played quite well, kicked a couple of goals against the Gold Coast Suns from a wing. Pitnet goes out injured. And once again, Paddy Dow has been omitted. Not going to go into much detail on that, other than it is a bit of a surprise not to even be named on an extended bench. We will find the results out of that extended bench at about 5 o'clock tonight, who will come into the team. Silvani is the only player at this stage of the ins who's been named in the selected side. So we've got Ed Curnow, George Hewitt, Jack Silvani, Jackson Binns once again been named. Surprise, Josh Honey, a real surprise. His form at VFL level hasn't been great. And Lewis Young. So let's just have a look at that extended bench, guys. So we've got Chincotta, Matthew Kennedy, Ed Curnow, Matt Owies, George Hewitt, Josh Honey, Jackson Binns, and Lewis Young. We have to name 4 from that. There's no way in the wide world that Alex Chincotta is going out of this football team. So he will play. Matthew Owies will play. So there's 2. Will Matthew Kennedy be the sub, potentially, with Dow going out? So I'm going to put my balls on the line here and say that Jackson Binns will make his debut for the football club with Matthew Cottrell going out of the team. And I have a sneaky feeling that Lewis Young might play, giving us that flexibility. Has he been in good enough form? Is there a role for him, either forward or back? Possibly. Can he play in the ruck to give TDK a chop out? Yes, he can do that. Is George Hewitt in good enough form to come into this team? Could he play as a sub? He could, although I reckon another game in the VFL would be great for George Hewitt. So I'm going to go Alex Chincotta, Matthew Owies, Jackson Binns to make his debut, which will be really exciting for us, considering there is a wing position open. I know Sam Walsh been named on a wing. But let's go for a true winger here, which is Jackson Binns, and I'm going to go for Lewis Young. Let's have a look at our backs. I think at the moment, the backs they're exciting me. I think Jacob Wiedering has found some really good form. A lot around leadership, which is really positive for us moving forward. It's going to be interesting. Does he go to Mitch Lewis? Because he hasn't necessarily gone to the most dangerous key forward. They've wanted to get the ball in the hands of Jacob Wiedering as an intercept defender, which says to me that potentially Young could play. Loving the work of Brody Kemp as an intercept defender. The same with Jordan Boyd as a lockdown small with the ability to run and carry and use the ball by foot, which is elite. I'd love to see his game grow in the latter part of this season. Nick Newman come back in, will have a big role. And I'm talking a big role on either, it could be a Chad Wingard if he comes into the team, a Tyler Brockman or a Luke Bruce, who I think he may go to, and Dylan Moore as well. He's a dangerous player. I think Adam Sard might go to Dylan Moore. Seems like a good matchup. Mitch McGovern another showing some solid form down back as well. I really like our defensive setup. Centre lines, Akers needs to lift. Boryu's been really, really down. Really down. He's lost a lot of confidence since the start of the year. Started the year like a house on fire, but's really tapered off. An opportunity to get away, refresh, and get back to what he was providing us early in the season. Cripps in the middle, Sam Walsh on the other wing. Will he play there? Will he spend part of the game there in a rotation with potentially Binns? I'd like to see that. Jack Silvani back into the team. Not sold on Jack at all across half forward, but if they're going with him as the pinch hit in the ruck, I think it kind of makes sense. Charlie Curnow, Jack Martin, who showed some glimpses against the Gold Coast Suns, but then was subbed off. Will he get a full game under his belt this time around? Needs to do a little bit more, but gives our front half a bit of a different dynamic. Fogarty didn't do a lot against the Suns, but gets another opportunity as that pressure forward who can go into the middle and get some midfield minutes, particularly at centre bounces. Opportunity for Harry to really cash in this game. The same with Charlie. I think both have been down. I really do. And we're not getting a hell of a lot from them. And it would be nice to really see them take this game by the scruff of the neck against what I consider to be an undersized and probably down on talent Hawthorn back half with James Blank. And I think as much as Sam Frost is a real battler and he provides them with some stability, I just think if they're not really exposing that defence, then there'll be some serious questions asked of our front half and also our ball movement, our connection going inside forward 50. David Cunningham, second game back. Really excited to see what he's got to offer in his second game back. Can he keep building now? Can he keep a clean bill of health? With not many games remaining, out of contract, didn't have a lot of the ball, but gave us a different look through the middle of the ground. Can he hit the scoreboard as well? We don't get a lot of goals from our mids and our high half forwards. Opportunity for him once again. TDK, will he be at the football club next year? Well, he's going to play 90% time in the ruck in this game without Mark Pittonet. Opportunity once again to build on his form from the Gold Coast game. Can he go forward and clunk a few when it's his time? Chera been excellent. Doherty been named into the midfield. I think he'll start there. Is he the answer in the midfield moving forward? Probably not. He is serviceable. He can get his hands on the football. I like the lineup. I really do. I really like the lineup, and I think this team has a point to prove against an undermanned and young Hawthorn team. Let's have a look at their lineup. Impey can run and carry. Need to keep an eye on him. Is that a lockdown role for one of our forwards, whether that's Lockie Fogarty needs to clamp down on Impey because they do rely on him to get some run. Young James Blank got a lot of work to do in a key position spot. It's going to have his hands full. Scrimshaw, yeah, he's another that can take an intercept grab. Seamus Mitchell, Young, Sam Frost, a little bit all over the joint, but the Hawks seem to like him as a reliable defender, and Blake Hardwick's been around a while now. We'll show some leadership down for them. Weddle, don't know a lot about him. Young, Will Day's a real developing type for the Hawks. Classy player, rangy. I think he may go to Patrick Cripps at the stoppages. And if one area that the Hawks can expose us is on transition, and I reckon they will try, because he's a pretty smart cookie, Sam Mitchell, I think they'll try and expose our lack of speed through that middle on transition with the likes of Will Day, Carl Amon on that other wing. They've got some hard-working midfielders, John Newcomb, James Warple, Connor Nash has had a really good year, the Irishman for the Hawks, is that tall, rangy type midfielder. Connor McDonald, is another player that shows some promise. And then you look at their forward line. They've dropped Jacob Kosicki. He's had a really sort of poor couple of games for the Hawks, really hasn't shown anything. But the one, obviously, Mitch Lewis, is the one that can clunk them at their highest point. But I think we'll have him covered. Tyler Brockman, Luke Bruce, dangerous if they're on, if they get some supply. And you look at their bench, and it's pretty hard to get an indication of which way the Hawks will go. But I got a feel they'll go with Fergus Green. He is the former Western Bulldogs player, played at Box Hill, showed some really good signs for the Hawks early in the year, and they don't appear to have a backup to Mitch Lewis in regards to another tall. Now, I'm not saying Fergus Green is huge, but he is mobile and he can clunk them. So I'd say they're going to go Chad Wingard, Fergus Green. Meek's got to play. He's got to play. I think he's been pretty good in the ruck for the Hawks with Ned Reeves. And I think they might go Josh Ward as the other player. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think. I think it's going to be a pretty comfortable win for us at the MCG on Sunday to keep our slim, and I'm talking very, very slim, finals hopes alive. But when you really think about it, we're at it. We've just got to keep winning. But percentage, the end of the year, if we do get on a roll, is going to come pretty bloody important. At the moment, we're on 98%, which is better than both Richmond and Fremantle are in front of us, but clearly behind teams inside the top 8 at the moment. St Kilda on 109, Essendon 107, Western Bulldogs 109, Adelaide 115. They're all inside the top 8. Some of those could slip out. If you're talking that bottom 4 of the top 8 could slip out. Geelong on 114, good percentage. You think they'll go in. Gold Coast Suns better than us on 107. Tell us what you think. Are you confident about this game? I will catch you in the review on Monday. Speak soon.